remember Mary Cornelius.
Oh, yes.
Bernadette, she was as a senior boarder. Bernadette, when we were having dinner, if Reverend Mother turned up,
Yeah.
and Reverend Mother was a tall and stately and rather imperious lady in those days. If Reverend Mother, Mother Teresa Bell was, Teresa Bell, she was a Reverend Mother, and every inch of her said Reverend Mother, you know. Well, if Teresa turned up in the dining room, Bernadette disappeared. She'd bob right down off her chair, and she'd bob right down under the table, and she'd say, "Tell me when I can get out." And we'd say, "It's right, she's talking to Sister at the moment." So Bernadette would scoot, hands and knees, out the door, around the corner. And when Reverend Mother came, and she'd say, "Oh, and where is Bernadette this evening, girls?" And we'd say, "We don't know, Reverend Mother." And we didn't know, because once she got out the door, you had no idea where she'd got to. And Bernadette used to say, "Well, I'm going to enter the convent someday, but not when Reverend Mother decides. I'm going when I decide." And she did. She did. But he was unusual, Dad was. Also very clever with his hands. And he could sort of make anything. If he couldn't afford to buy it, he made his own first tractor. He got an old Ford car with a good strong engine, and stripped it down, and took the tyres off the wheels with a friend who was a welder, had a welding machinery, the equipment. He used to do jobs for various people in town, and he got blades to put on the two rear wheels of the old car, so that it could cling to the ground like a tractor. And that was Dad's first tractor. He couldn't afford to buy a real tractor. But we didn't talk at meals. We used to have reading at meals and things like that.
Yes, that's right.
We always had reading at meals. Always something good and instructive. Though sometimes interesting things used to happen at meals too. And I remember one day, one beautiful spring day, we'd been having soup. It was cold winter, but one day was glorious spring day, and instead of having our lunch, starting with nice hot soup and toast, we started off with salad, a lovely fresh salad. Hadn't had salad for ages, but the salad was served on plates to everybody, sitting at the dining room. But the servers had to go around with a nice little bucket and a ladle with the salad dressing, because different people like different amounts of salad dressing. And I remember Sister Catherine of Siena, who was a very shy sister, and she used to blush at anything went wrong. She used to turn pink, and then she'd turn pinker and pinker and pinker. And Sister Catherine was a server, and there's all the nice salad was served to everybody, and she bowled around serving people. But she came to Mother Domittle, who was she was an ex-provincial and a real character. And if she got mail, if mail was put at her place in the dining room, she always seemed to sort of open it there and then, even though there was reading going on and serving going on around her, but no chatter, of course. But she'd open up all the important bits of mail. Well, she was opening up her mail carefully, and Sister came along with the salad dressing to go on there, and this customer was too busy looking at her, and Sister leaned over and she said, "Mother, salad dressing." Too busy. "Mother, excuse me, Mother, salad dressing." Oh. And she picked up her little coffee bowl. We all had a coffee bowl. Old French custom, we didn't have cup and saucer, we had a coffee bowl. She picked up a coffee bowl and held it up. You also had the soup out of your coffee bowl too, you see. She picked it up and held it up. Sister thought she wouldn't want it in a coffee bowl. She said, "Mother, salad dressing." She said, Oh, it's very interesting mail she must have had. So she said, well, if that's what she wants. So she labelled some salad dressing into her coffee bowl. She put it down and she picks up her spoon. And she, server, sister, you've given me salad dressing. and salad, poor Catherine was the colour of a lobster by this time. You can imagine every time she had to make an effort, she turned pinker. You learned a few things as you went along, and sometimes we used to be a bit puzzled and rather amused by it. We said the funny thing is often it's the ones who come radiant about it, and they say, "Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? Oh, isn't it lovely?" We say, "We're not allowed to talk. No idle talk in working times. Talk's got to be said." "Oh, that's wonderful," they said. "That's a wonderful idea. Oh, isn't it lovely? Oh, it's wonderful being here. Isn't it wonderful?" They were the ones who often you hear a couple of days later, the novice mistress would say that so-and-so went back to her family today. She wasn't feeling happy or at home here. And it used to puzzle us as youngsters, What isn't it funny? It's the ones who come and never get home. Well, they don't say they're homesick or anything like that. They're so radiantly happy about everything, and everything's so wonderful. Even some of the things that we thought were, you got a bit tired of them, got a bit sick of them sometimes, and they say, "Oh, it's wonderful though, isn't it? Oh, it's wonderful." And they were the ones who disappeared. I suppose we were too young ourselves to realise that settling into something, accepting a new life, is not just the the radiant bits that suddenly strike you. It's something. It's got to be something that's sort of a bit deeper, hasn't it? You've got to be prepared to have some not so good days and to be homesick sometimes, and to wish you could be at home for a bit because you wished you'd just love to know how everyone's getting on at home and what the kids are doing and all that kind of thing. If you're being too radiant, you're being a bit unreal. And sometimes some funny things happened in the reading too. Oh yes, and we used to have to prepare the reading. Mother used to say to us, "Look, if you're a reader and you're reading for dinner time or tea time, prepare your reading. Don't have the nerve to get up on the reader's stand." And you're reading to a community of 70 odd. It was a big community with all the professed sisters, and we had about 30 in the nursery in our day. And she said, prepare it and read it intelligently. And she said, sometimes the book would be on spiritual life, but it had been written with brothers or something like that. She said, well, if it keeps saying the brothers should this or the brothers should that, change it, prepare the reading and say the sisters should or the sisters should and religious need to such and such. Don't keep saying brothers all the time when you're reading to us. All right, fine, prepared, all prepared. So one of the readers gets up, she prepares her reading very, very carefully. And then she comes to that very pious little story about the monk who had such reverence for his superiors that every time he met his superior, he used to raise his biretta, which in those days, a biretta was a little three-cornered cap that priests, you never see a biretta these days, but they normally wore this little, it was part of a priest's or a monk's uniform in a way. But this monk had such reverence for his superior, taking the place of God and speaking for God, that every time he met his superior, he raised his biretta and he said, and bowed and said, Ave Christe, hail, O Christ. Lovely, lovely devout story. But anyway, she's reading it to us. And there was this sister who had such reverence for her superior. And then she thought to herself, oh, how am I going to get out of this? She had such reverence for her superior, she repeated herself, that every time she met her superior, she said she can't say she raised her veil. I mean, sisters don't raise their veils.
They lower their veil.
She bowed respectfully, raised her biretta and said, Ave Christe. And of course, by that time, with all the hesitancies, everyone was waiting to see how she was going to get out of it. And everybody burst out laughing. And the Reverend Mother we had at the time was a real sport. And she went ding, ding, ding on her little bell up at her place. And she said, sisters, I think we've had enough serious reading for the moment. She said, let's have a little chat for a while. So that was nice. It was a nice way to end off the